G'day, Skyfarers. Welcome back. And I am joined by Max Baumann, hailing from the Grand Skyport of the Aethercast podcast. And we are going to be talking all things Kharadron or Kharadron Overlords, depending on what side of the world you're from. If you don't know who Max is, you need to come down from the sky because Max has been dominating with his formidable sky vessel, Himmelsjäger. You can tell me how bad my German is there. The Aether and his Aether-powered technology. He reads from the battlefield with a very sharp mind that is as sharp as an aethermatic saw, and I'm told that he holds a grudge like no other. So fasten your harness and fly high with us as we elevate your game to the new heights that only a Lord Magnate can. G'day, Max. How you going?
Wow, what an introduction. Leah, I hope you're taking notes. Fantastic, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk Kharadron Overlords.
I am excited to talk about this faction because it's an interesting one. I have not seen a lot of KO in 4th edition. I can't say that it's been very popular on the tables. And it's been we're recording, and it's been about 9 months of 4th edition. So I would be curious to understand where are we at, what's going well, what hasn't gone well, what have you learned from your experience, and kind of start guiding us to how do I make the most of KO? Because I was talking to Discord, there's a lot of questions, and people I think are still frustrated, try to find that right combination. It's like, right, do I go all boats? Am I going balloon boys? Am I going high drops, low drops? I don't think people have cracked the code just yet. So I'd be curious to understand from your experience what you've learned, what you've picked up, and hopefully start guiding those boats to the paths of victory. Because according to Warhammer, you are sitting close to 50%. You're in the green spot. I think you're 48%, 50%.
Yeah, depending who you ask, even above 50%. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not terrible. You're not hot garbage. You're sitting in that nice sweet spot. So you've got a chance to compete. But Max, give me the intro. First off, how'd you get into KO for the folks who don't know your journey? And then let's talk a little bit about 4th edition and where KO's at.
Okay. Well, my journey to KO was making excuses for myself to buy new minis. I started Age of Sigma in 2nd edition with Dispossessed. I like dwarves. Collected all the dwarves, all the Dispossessed, and then I found out the rules were 2 pages in a GHP back then, 2019, and they weren't pretty good, or I wasn't good with them. And then later, through a deviation through Fire Slayers, the Cities book came out with Dispossessed, and you could play Kharadron in there. So I'll just buy a gun holder and some Arcanauts, just for my Cities army. And that ended up in I don't know how many thousand points of Kharadron Overlords, and being my main army that I played for many years on tournaments, and I really enjoy. Yeah, and I'm co-host on a dedicated podcast and YouTube show, so that's how it goes, I guess.
You start off with a Cities army, and then you turn out to be a podcaster and a massive collector. I also fell into that trap with Tempest Eye, where you'd have 1 in 4. Back in the ye old day, kids. Let me sit down on my lap and let me tell you a story where in 2nd edition and even 3rd, before the New Cities book, Tempest Eye, one of the battle formations now, could take 1 in 4 units to be KO. So
Yep.
like you, I bought a gun hauler. I bought 6 balloon boys. It was so good for Tempest Eye. I do miss those allied days a little bit. Yes, we have regiments around now, but I actually converted my Sky Wardens to be halflings. So I bought the halflings from Blood Bowl, and I kit bashed it between that and I've still got the balloons and I've still got the official stuff, but kit bashed them with halflings and made it my own. Really cool.
Yeah, I kind of miss those days where you could kit a lot of kit bashing opportunities, hobby opportunities that these books gave you, because you had 1 in 4 allies, you had 1 in 4 other faction, but they gained the keyword, and you had all the city stuff, so it was very interesting time.
Yeah, let's not open the can of worms. I know you have a lot of conversions and kit bashes from Stormcast, so we'll just fast forward to 4th edition. Let's move forward from 2nd to 4th.
So yeah, 4th edition. We were all excited when we got the first, army information, some rules, some battle traits on the GW community homepage. We got these articles, and I was really excited about KO. All these movement things they should. What's the freaking? Or you can transport units, and then you can power through and take them with you again, and then you can do this and that, and it sounded really exciting. And then I played a few games with KO when the new edition dropped, and it was hard. It was first. I think this is what everyone felt. Your army just shrunk. You were left with 2 boats and like 20 people. That was your whole army. So a significant downsize, especially from obnoxious times where I played 35 Thunderers. Yes, I'm culpable. Sorry. I did that. It was fun for me, at least. It was tough playing KO, especially with the new rules, because you had all these manifestations, new rules. So you actually had, for free, you had 3 or 4 more units. And KO didn't have that. They don't have magic. They cannot even banish. They can unbind once, maybe twice if you take an end work on a ship. So it was a bit, you felt like no halves. Like, yeah, you don't get to play with these fancy new stuff. So that was a bit difficult. Then KO being predominantly a shooting army in the past, yes, you could play melee builds, but I mean, everyone has a gun, so it's a shooting army. And for the whole of 4th edition, they've reduced shooting, which I think for the game is a good thing. So they shortened the ranges of weapons. It's less impactful, less rend, which is a good thing for the game. But it's not so good if that's what your army does. So it means your whole army got a bit nerfed. I say nerfed. It's a balancing thing, but it feels like you're having a difficult time there. So I must admit I did not play much Kharadron Overlords in the beginning of the edition. I played a few games, I tested something out, but then I always felt like I'm lacking compared to my opponent's armies, who had all these cool stuff that they could do. So yeah, then I deviated from my Soulblight. I played those a lot, my Gits, some cities. That was fun. And now recently we have seen results, also tournament results, people going 5-0, 4-1 with KO, a good win rate, above 50%. So and recently I attended a team tournament where a team that won from Italy, they played the KO list. And I was very excited. I played against him with Flesh Eaters, and it really got me back into playing Kharadron. I'm really excited. I actually have more Kharadron to paint. I didn't ever think that I needed more balloons. I own 40 painted balloons, but yes, I'm painting another one because I was missing one Skywarden. I don't know why. And the hero at the code right that I've not touched since they released him because he was not good. But he's 80 points, so he fits into a specific list. So I'm really excited these past weeks to play Kharadron again. So this is a perfect opportunity to talk about it.
What's changed? Because you're right. Like, I remember looking at KO when 4th edition came out, and you're right. There's a lot of, on paper, I mean, look, you lost Unleash Hell, and that was helpful at times. But you had Covering Fire, which works really well, Countercharge, Power Through. You've got the speed to be taking the flank, maybe not the durability, but seizing the center, and you don't want to really just move forward and like you're in a good spot with battle tactics. You're right that army shrank. I felt that a lot. Like when I built my Stormcast, it shrunk. And then I look at KO where, is it the Ironclad's 500 points?
Yes.
And yes, traditionally, like you can't have like seven Ironclads on the table. And they've always taken up a lot of points. But when you're a faction that doesn't have a lot of troops, you are fighting for battle tactics, which probably require a lot of units at the moment. You have battle plans that have 6 to 8 objectives maximum. So being able to compete and retain objectives can be quite challenging. and you're not an army that's very durable, and then they reduce your shooting range, I guess this is a recipe of like, right, what worked in 3rd edition is not going to work in 4th. And it's been like cracking that code, right? I think it's been that persistence and cracking and testing and, talking on Discords and things like that to try to work it out, because you are a frail army. You've got a lot of power, but you're a scalpel. You've got to go in, you've got to use the tools that you have with precision, because a mistake is a costly one.
Definitely. I think that's a very good description. Also, one thing that we lost is the fly high, the teleport. In the past, when opponents ask you, so what's your threat range? I say, I can teleport 9 inch away. And then they started screening their backfields. They're in panic. You put down these 9 inch sticks everywhere. That's how you send them into panic during deployment. You just randomly put down these 9 inch sticks. Oh, okay, here. Oh, maybe here. And then they started screening the backfields. I'm not going to go there. There's no objective there, but cool. Put your models in the backfield. And we really lost that. And it also meant for KO players, they need to play Warhammer now. They need to measure distances. They need to pre-measure. It is. You need to play like the other people, that walk to battle. They don't have fancy flying ships. Yeah, we have a deep strike, but another thing that changed is the transport. Before, everything went into a boat. And you said, well, these go there in here and they are in here. And I think it's a good change, because your opponent had no idea who's where and how many wounds suffered and who's left. And there's a hero in here, or is he over here? Or it was a bit hard, because often also gaming tables, you don't really have the space to place your models on the side. So they went on a tray. So, okay, these are in that ship. They are in that ship. I always try to put them like behind the ships off the board. But once the ships switched places, like no one knew who was where. And so that's a good change, that everything you have is on the battlefield. You can see there's that many models, there's that many here, there's here, they're here, they're here. So it's a good change, but it also, it changes your game. You need to move the ships, place the models again, where I'm going to put them, what's my range. So it's different. It's different, basically. You need to think differently, yeah.
So Max, what's changed? Like, we went from the first, 6 months where it hasn't been very kind to KO. And you're right. Like, I was playing with a bunch of factions that don't have wizards either. And just some of the madness that was happening in the earlier months of Age of Sigmar, with just like manifestations everywhere. And it's like, you have a limited amount of shooting. If you don't have an unbind, you've either got to put those shooting into the manifestation, or you ignore them completely and they're just annoying. And, for me, with like my Gargans, for example, I had to go into combat. I had to that was the only way I get rid of them. And it was super annoying. You're probably no different from a shooting perspective. But what's changed? Yeah. But what's changed over the last couple of months that have KO more attractive, higher win percentage? What's happened?
So we had the update before Christmas, I think, where they introduced the field sergeant. I think that was the update. So field sergeant is no good for KO, because your models are never going to walk. They're always going to take the transport. But they reduced a few points there, and they made a change that before, if you were wholly within 6 of your sky vessel, you were -1 to hit against shooting. Now it's -1 to hit full stop. So it works in combat. It's like your own cover area that you carry around, and it works when you're charging. It works when you're getting charged, and it does make a difference. You think, -1 to hit, still, these balloons are going to die. There's a unit of 6 is 12 wounds or 4 up safe. So they just got no ward. They're just going to die, whoever hits them. However, that -1 to hit can make a difference. Of 2 or 3 maybe survive. It's a nice change. And then I think what was one thing that in the early days people used to play was the priority target that worked against the whole regiment, which was fantastic for Thunderers. +1 to hit, +1 to wound. You did it all the time. We've seen this with the Zinj, what are they called? The shooty tangers on discs.
Skyfires. Yeah, Skyfires.
Skyfires, long strikes, all the shooting units used to be very good. Thunderers did it. Then they changed it. Only the general and his honor guard. Less good. So that was a change that affected KO a lot. Actually, made it even worse because that was something that was very good for them. Because again, they tried to dial down shooting again. And then we've seen, I think what we've seen also is a bit the resurgence of centerpiece models. People playing big monsters again, which they didn't last year. Was my impression from my local meta, I think. People playing Usharan, of course, with Flesh Eater is very good. People playing Alariel, people are playing Gargans, Croak again, stuff like that. And they really rely on this, or a Karazai or Grondis. They rely on a big model with a ward, with a bodyguard. KO doesn't care about bodyguard. I'm not going to go into combat with him, maybe. Or I can shoot off the bodyguard. KO has something very powerful. You can remove a ward. So you have a bit of a advantage in those matches where a quarter of your opponent's army is something you can actually deal with. I think so. That's maybe also a shift in the meta that's affecting KO. People changing to something else, going away from Zinj with all these many models and many bodies. That's something KO struggled with. That you just cannot kill all this stuff, all these wounds, because you don't have the shooting anymore. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know. Or maybe people just rediscovered KO and said, "Oh, but I have the Altus army in my sitting there in my display. Let's try it out again." And that's what was the case for me. Other people played it and I enjoyed playing against it and trying out again. And it has the power, yeah.
I think there's a lot to, like, there's no one change. It's not like Game Workshop dropped
it's not like
30% of your points. Correct. You're right. Like early edition, we had Nighthaunt going crazy and just didn't have enough time. Yeah, but like if you think about like the story of the first 6 months and like why KO is now in a good spot, not the best spot again, it's in a good spot. You know, armies like Nighthaunt or the heavy cavalry armies, which, you know, those speed
Black
armies.
Knights,
The
Riders. They're not good. You could not kill those wounds and saves, and them going away maybe allowed KO to rise again. Oh,
I love it, but you're right. Like, you know, the shift in the meta, you know, we have seen more centerpieces, which is a good thing. One, Age of Sigmar has beautiful centerpieces, so we should have them on the table. But two, that works in your advantage. You know, you've had a few points drops, you've had a few rule tweaks. We've had now 9 months to like, I guess, birth this baby, and we're now starting to see like the combinations of synergies. Because one of the questions I had from Johnny Vampire was saying, is KO still a shooting army? And the identity of KO has changed so frequently from, when I think it was first edition when I got to play KO for the first time, it was Balloon Boy spam. Then we've gone, Clown Car, Balloon Boy spam. Then we've gone through, you know, all of the boats.
Warp Lightning Vortex.
Yeah, we've had Warp Lightning Vortex, the best Skaven manifestation to come out of KO.
Yeah, we had that. We went
Assault Boat.
A lot of Thunderers. Yeah.
Like we've gone into the Crash, Assault Bloat, Yeet Out. So the play style and the identity has changed so frequently with KO. It's like, well, what's the right way to go? Is it a frigate versus ironclad? Is it lots of gun haulers? Is it no gun haulers? Am I running, you know, as you said, the Code Ride is now half decent. So I think it's just taken us that time to work out and crack the code.
I really like the third edition book because it introduced different playstyles. KO's problem always was me mumbling like an old dwarf about the past times, but it always was you need to shoot your opponent off the objective and then you can move on to the objective because you were not fighting him. And the third edition book introduced the assault boat. You could actually charge onto it and you could fight first and you can fight them. You did a lot of mortal wounds with charging in, flying over, dropping bombs. So there was different lists. There was the aggressive list with frigates and balloons. There were these lists with thunderers and ironclads and the bridge, which in the end maybe were too strong. My favorite third edition list actually was 4 boats. It was just 3 frigates, an ironclad, and some heroes and a few units, but no one in the boat because you did so many mortal wounds just with the boat. Flying over, bombs. Charging in, mortal wounds. A lot of shots, that you could do. So unfortunately, I only discovered this list at the end of 3rd edition. I didn't play it much, but it was you could do a lot. And then new edition comes around like, okay, we have 2,000 points. Everything's very expensive. There's not much I can take. Also, now you have restrictions from army building. Not every hero can take multiple sky vessels. That's something that frustrated me a lot in the beginning, because you want to take boats, because that's the KO thing, as your centerpiece, and maybe it's the key to your army. It's your movement. And then the normal heroes can only take one sky vessel. So either you have to take Brock, who was not very good in the beginning because he was very expensive, or the Admiral. Those are the only two that can take multiple. So it was a bit of a few things coming together that in the beginning I think made it difficult for KO. Now, is it still a shooting army? That was the question. It can shoot. Let me answer it this way. I know people have tried to play the Ironclad with 30 Thunderers. Alex Ron from Australia, he's played it with some regiments of renown to help you out. People have tried to put in the Black Talons, so you get a caster. People have tried to play Saviors of Cinderfall because they were just great value for the points. Some people have tried the KO Stormwing, the dragons, or the teleporty Vanguard people, but they're quite. It means 500 points. It's quite expensive. And trying to make up for what KO was lacking on some edges, so Stormdrakes for fighting, or a magician or something like that. KO can shoot, but I don't think there's really a shooting army in the meta at the moment, or in Age of Sigmar. So no, I don't think it's the shooting army, or the best shooting is what wins you games. I found it's a nice add-on to damage. You're gonna do a bit more damage in shooting, and it helps. It's gonna pick off a few models here, a few models there.
So what do you think the identity is? If it's not and obviously if you want to run all shooting, power to you, go do it. I guess Max is obviously sharing it from like the top level competitive. If you want to make the most of KO and put yourself in a best position to win, like what does KO look like? So if it's not a dominant all shooting list, what do you think the identity? And obviously we're going to show folks, Max has got a couple of lists. We're going to go through the rules in a minute, but just like what is the play style? And I guess what's the mindset that I should have when I'm list building?
At the moment, I think KO to play successfully is not an easy army to play. Maybe even one of the higher skill level armies, because you need to be very, very carefully where you place your models. As you kept saying for years and years, movement wins games. In this case, movement can lose you the game. Because if they get you, it's always been the case with KO, if they get your boats, you're usually gonna lose the game very quickly. There's a few tricks that KO has to avoid this, but you need to be very careful how you deploy, where you put your models. And I think it's, as you said, it's a scalpel army. You can apply a lot of power in one place. That's always been with KO. Usually everything went to one side of the game. You took 2,000 points of your army to delete 800 points of the opponent's army. Obviously, because it's almost more than double than the force points you have there. And then you move to the other side and dealt with the other stuff because you were so much faster. And now I think you need to do the same. You need to pick your battles. You're going to win those battles with the assault bolt and balloons. We'll have a look later. You can dish out a lot of damage with fight first, which saves you from getting hit back and lose your balloons. But you need to plan ahead. Where am I going to place myself after that? Where am I going to go? I think if that works and if you win with KO, you feel great because you piloted the army to your best. But I think it can be frustrating in the beginning because often you'll have this moment where you misplace the screen and that loses you the game. You're just going to lose your army in that turn or the next one.
Yeah. KO has so much power. Like when you focus fire on a unit or units, like they're gone. They're just straight up gone. Kind of, if we go back to the past again, I miss Finest Hour because I'm like, yep, he's coming for this. I'm going to chuck down Finest Hour. I'm going to chuck down all that defense. I'm going to find every defensive mechanism I have. Obviously, that works in your advantage. There's less things like that. There's no Mystic Shield anymore. There's no... So like that also works in your favor.
Yes, we lost a bit of rend on many things, but I think with the shooting now is more volume than quality, which helps. Also with high saves, because your opponent's gonna roll those ones and twos eventually.
And I think the other thing I'll just quickly mention, and I will get to the rules, is we didn't really see, and like when I was reading 4th edition before it got released, I had a feeling that, well, I don't have a feeling, but I'm like, I wonder if we're going to see a massive focus on infantry, because while people don't like pushing around a lot of models, with the loss of battle shock, that is a huge tool to be able to flood the board, to go, right, here's my 40 grot units just all over all the board, and you don't have the damage to be taking them out, and I don't have to worry about them fleeing through battle shock. But that obviously didn't manifest, which actually worked, to your disadvantage as well, because to your point, the speed of KO, you can get caught out with cavalry. But now that infantry is returning and field sergeants come in, and we're starting to see that dynamic shift between centerpiece and infantry, this is working to your advantage.
Yes. One thing that KO really doesn't like is 3d6 charges. Because they can get you. There's a trick. If you play KO correctly, our army that doesn't have 3d6 charge, that relies on charging their opponent normally, you could make it in a way they can never charge you, if you got the space and if you place correctly. 3d6 charges changes that, because now they have the extra reach. They can roll a 14, 15 inch charge. So that's a bit difficult, yeah.
Well, right, two last questions, and then we'll get to the rules. Just carrying on from the last question. So Johnny had asked a couple of good questions. The other one just alluded to something you mentioned earlier, where at the back of 3rd edition, you started playing all boats, no troops. Mm. Do you think that in 4th edition, that's something you can replicate? Like, do boats do enough damage on their own, or are they more now just transporting those slow infantry? Like, how do you look at boats?
Maybe we need to differentiate between the boats. The gun hauler will do 0 damage. It is very expensive for what it does. Basically, it scores battle tactics. The frigate, I think, is a pure delivery mechanism. It can do damage. It has a few shots. But it's what enables you to get your troops into combat with strike first, if you're playing that melee build. The Ironclad has the highest troop transport capability, so that's great. But as the frigate, I think it's very overcosted for what it does. And the damage is good. It's nothing like, I'm going to put my Ironclad here, it's going to delete a unit. That's not going to happen. It has decent damage. It's a few shots, damage 2, a few long range shots with damage D3 plus 3 or D6, depending on the weapon you choose. But it's nothing that's going to, one shot a vampire lord on a zombie dragon or something.
The Ironclad's a lot of... Yeah, that's fair. I was just looking...
It has a few shots, but it's just... I think it's more... You have a piece that can transport a lot of troops, move thunderers around. It has 20 wounds and a free up save. That's nothing to neglect. So they're quite tanky, the ships. But it's just... the ships alone are not going to win you the game. You win against KO if you delete the troops. You can leave the ships alone. The ships alone, yeah, they have control score 5. They're going to fly around. They're going to be a nuisance, but they're not going to score and win the game.
Yeah. No, you're right. You are 100% correct, because, they're only control score, 5? Like
5 on horrors too.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Ironclad now. It's 5, right? And, if I can remove those troops. If you remove the troops, you deny battle tactics, you deny scoring. So basically, the message here, folks, is protect your troops. Or if you're listening to this because you've got someone terrorizing you from KO in your community, kill the troops. Take whichever lens you want. Last question, because you brought it up. 3d6 charges. We've seen Slaves to Darkness, for example, terrorizing. We've got the resurgence of Kragnos and his 3d6 charge. Do you have any tips or thoughts on how I can defend myself or, not become vulnerable to that 3d6 charge and just keep shooting people off the board?
Depends of the source. If it's a spell, like
let's say slaves. Let's say slaves right now, because chosen slaves is the
spell, unless they have the Slanesh banner. A spell you can stop. We'll go into the artifacts later, but you can auto unbind once per game, so you can protect from that if it's through the spell. If it's the banner, it's harder. Kragnos, you kill Kragnos. Basically, that's what you can do. Otherwise, will people say defend yourself against charges is screens. You have cheap screens with Arcanauts, 100 points for 10 dudes on a 4-up save. It's not bad, but they're not fast. They move 4 inches, and they're 10 models, so that will go into your transport capabilities. So it's hard to establish a screen with Arcanauts beyond turn 1 or 2, because it just cannot keep up. It's difficult. That's one of the things I dislike playing against, is those 3d6 charges.
I think we can all unite. Although, to be fair, I've just been playing Kragnos for the last 3 months with Sun, so I can't talk. But
Kragnos, you can kill him. Kragnos doesn't have that 2-up save anymore that he used to have. So
no, 4-up save. It's so
4-up save on a private ward. You can take away the ward, and then he's just 20 wounds on a 4-up save. You could shoot it.
KO would actually scare the crap out of me if I was running Kragnos, because if it's basically, can I charge you or will you get in range and shooting? It's a little dance. But all right, we've been teasing you the rules without reading the rules out to you, because again, it's been around for such a long time. I imagine you have either looked at the rules or you have now access to the rules on your War Scroll app. How do you look at these rules? Because, you've obviously got your flying high ability. To your point, it's not fly high, it's flying high. So it's changed a little bit, and you don't have the mid-game teleporting shenanigans that you used to have with that fly high rule. You've got your transport. We've talked about the importance of infantry and having those troops. And how do you think about all these rules, right? How do you think about it from a list construction? How do you think about them from tapping into it onto the table? When do I bring things down from the clouds? Talk to me about the advice you give around your battle traits.
I think the most important one is the transport Skyfarers. That's and the key thing here is using a move ability, not using moving or the move ability. It's a move keyword, move ability. Power through is a move ability. Redeploy is a move ability. Running is a move ability. So that opens up, and I like this about the new edition, how they structure this with keywords and rules, because it's very clear and it opens up some interaction. This is what gets you around on the board, and this is the power of the book, I think. The other one, flying high and descend from clouds, is just 2 things in one. It's you deploy and preserve, and that's how you get back on the board. I rarely use it. You can use it to keep something in deep strike. Depending on your opponent, maybe he has the opportunity he has the power that you can project turn 1 to kill something of yours. You say, okay, I'll put this in reserve. It's safe for a turn or 2. And the skyvessel cover is a passive, and I think it's a nice add-on, but it's not something I'm gonna build around. It's just something you get, because you're gonna be within 6 inches of the boats anyway, because you're using transport all the time. It's a nice add-on. Nice one to it. Fantastic. So I think the key one is the transporting your troops. And that's where some of my problems come with the boats, because the carrying capacity. The gunholder used to be able to carry 6. Fantastic. A reinforced unit of balloons because they come in threes. Now it's 5s. It used to be 6. So a unit of 500s and a hero. No, now it's just 500s or a few heroes. So then we have the frigate, 12. Oh, great, a 10-man unit and 1 or 2 heroes. Or these 2 balloon units and no hero. It's a bit hard, yeah.
So what is that?
Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear the frustration. For example, look, I see it on both fences, right? Taking that cheap gun hauler and then chucking 6 balloon boys was always like a really cheap delivery mechanism for those types of troops, whether it your various balloon boys. So I can see on one hand they're trying to change the role and trying to make sure that gun haulers, they do the healing on boats, the water on the boats, they do all the little things, right? Do they still do the healing? No, I think it's
Ender riggers can still heal boats and heroes can heal boats. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. There's the gun hauler that does the ward. It
does the ward. A 6-up boy still does that. Yeah.
But it's not. I think the role they've tried to define the role where it's like, right, the gun hauler is to support the boats, or to your point, they go out and score battle tactics. They're not. Basically, what I'm saying is they're not the delivery mechanism of putting in balloon boys and then.
No.
Yeah.
They don't deliver and they don't do damage. They're a 12-inch move boat with 10 wounds on a free up save that can just zip around scoring objectives. That's how
the gun hauler capacity is definitely deliberate. You can see like that 5 was to stop you from going to 6. Like it's just absolutely deliberate for that reinforced unit.
And then you have the ironclad with caught me there. I think 20.
I'll bring it up now.
4, and you can bring it up to 30 or more than 30.
22. I'm looking at the
22.
ironclad. It's 22.
And you can bring it to 32, I think, with the engine work.
With the great engine work. To the movement. Oh, yeah. So if you take the collapsible compartments, you add 1 to the number of units and 10 to the number of models in the transport.
4 units and 32 models. So that's the big thing.
Yeah.
And they tried to fix it and they didn't fix that rule because before it was the engine work choosing is a deployment ability. So after deploying, if you deploy the unit in reserve, you couldn't use it. Then they changed it. Say, you can use engine works in reserve. Yeah, great, but still, to put it in reserve with 30, let's say 30 thunders, it already needs to have the extra capacity, which it will only get after it's in reserve. So it still doesn't work. And I think they do that deliberately. They want you to stop. They want to stop you from putting 30 thunders in a boat in deep strike.
Yes, and then coming down and just absolutely obliterating top of turn 1.
Obliterating with 10-inch range. So you come down, they redeploy 1 inch. Great. You done nothing. So that's also one thing. So why I think the flying high is, it can be situational good. You can put a gun hauler in preserve, just a gun hauler. And then you can drop down, score you, take the land or something like that.
I was going to ask you, like, what would be a good use case for flying high? So you said it's not bad, but it's not something you rely on consistently.
Either I've seen me played, I like the gun hauler, just the single gun hauler. You say, I'll put this in reserve. It doesn't split your regiment. You just say, this one, I'm going to use the deployability flying high instead of the normal deployability, and the rest I'll put on the board. Or what you can do is just take a frigate with 12 balloons, stick it in reserve, and say, well, that's something you need to think about. It's still there, and it can come down behind you, ideally. Other than that, I've not played it, but I can imagine people being scared of turn 1 charges. This ironclad and the 20 thunders and 2 heroes, I'm just going to put in reserve. So turn 1, there's just a few models on the board. I'm just going to keep my stuff safe.
Which could actually be a nice little counter to the 3d6 charge. If you just want to pop some things in the sky, like, cool, okay, well, I'm going to backboard, I'm going to split my force, I'm going to hide from that 3d6 charge, I'm going to put something in the sky, so regardless, I'm going to split your focus, and it's not easy to just pin my little castle, and, you just keep scoring battle tactics while I'm pinned down by the Varangard, the Chosen, the Mega Gargant, whatever has 3d6 charged into my face. What else? I mean, it's pretty straightforward, I think.
It's pretty straightforward. It's not so much different from what it used to be. Instead of teleporting boats for a command point, now you cannot teleport anymore. You can put something in reserve, and they change the transport that we spoke about. Instead of putting stuff into the boat, now it's around the boat. So it's similar to what it used to be.
Do you have any favorite combinations when it comes to your transporting Skyfarers?
Combination in terms of units?
Yeah, like units and boats. Like, I always put X with Y or...
Yeah, it writes itself. If you're using a frigate who's going to charge and give you strike first, you're not going to do it with thunders because they're trash in combat. You're going to do it with balloons or fighty heroes. So that always combines itself. If you want really a shooting castle, you want to move it forward, you're going to pair the Ironclad with Thunders, especially because the Ironclad has the capacity of bringing 22 models. So you have your heroes, your buff heroes, and 20 Thunders. Or Arcanauts, if that's your thing, but they're not going to do much. But still, I think it writes itself, basically.
What about gun haulers? Do you like to put 3 or 5 models with the gun hauler at all?
Usually no one. Because I don't like to play 5 Thunders, because 5 Thunders are just going to not do anything for you. You want a reinforced unit, so your buffs have a bigger effect. Your all-out attack, your extra rend, whatever it might be, your honor guard. A 5-man unit is just, I don't know. And then I can see people zipping around a gun hauler with a hero just to get the hero onto an empty objective or score a battle tactic, reclaim the realms or something like that. But other than that, I think the transport on a gun hauler is situationally good, but it's nothing you're going to build your list around.
Yeah, I'm talking obviously as a tactic, but yeah, situationally you might come up, you've got a gun hauler on the flank, you've got a couple of models left who have died, and like you've got a couple, you want to get them out. Like, yes, there's situations, but as a tactic, it's like, right, I'm going to put 3 wardens next to this boat and I'm going to do this in turn 1 to do this in turn 3. No, that's not the ideas that you have rolling in your head.
I've seen it, people bringing 3 engine riggers and a gun hauler. And you can tell, okay, that's just for battle tactics. Those 3 are going to go into the gun hauler or 1 on each flank, and then it just score your flanks or something. But otherwise, the gun hauler is very overcosted for what it does.
Yeah, for once, it's hard, right? It's complicated because it's a little utility piece, right? For 160.
It's a glorified chariot.
Yeah, but because it also gives you the 6, I think you're paying the tax for the escort vessel is a tax, right? Because you get a lot of value if you're giving a 6-up ward to an ironclad or a frigate, but in most situations you're not using that way, so you're now paying a tax on an ability that you're not using very often. And if you just remove that rule altogether, this unit's probably 120, 130-ish. But that's that escort vessel is keeping it at the higher bracket because of what it does.
Maybe. So it's hard because, yes, the 6-up ward for your boats, if someone is attacking your boat, you already made a big mistake. So you shouldn't need it if everything goes according to plan. So now you're buying something into your list that you get a use out of if something went wrong. I don't know. It's not how I like to build lists. It's like we had this in 3rd edition. You get a bonus if a hero dies. No, well, why would I? I don't want to both if my general just died. That's not a good plan. That's not something to have.
No, you're right.
I mean,
You're right.
or to get. So yeah, it's there's a few of these things. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. It's and we talked about you don't want your boats in combat. Again, we want to dance around. We want to pick our engagements, and planning around a gun hauler supporting a ironclad. You're now currently close to 700 points without even putting a unit or a hero on the board. So I'm like, oh, do I want to have a gun hauler? Is that worth 1/3 of my army? No. Anyway, God bless the gun hauler. We'll just drop that.
God bless him. I used to play 10 of them in a list in the last edition. Yeah, because with the Lord Ordinator, +1 for war machines, +1 to hit. And they were really good. They had 24-inch shots with D3 +1 damage. And I think the 12-inch shots with 2 damage. And if you bring 10 of them, it's just a lot of dice with +1 to hit. You get a lot of bonus out of them. And then they all can do... They used to have this +6 move once per game, where they pushed the nitrogen and just went for it. And they all dropped 4 bombs, so you rolled 4 dice. Each 4+ was a mortal wound. So 10 of them, that's 20 mortal wounds over a target. Someone stuck in your screen, you just moved all the gun haulers over them and pack. Each just dealt 20 mortal wounds to that big unit, plus the ulti shots. So it was a fun list. It wasn't great, but it was fun.
That's wild. That's shout out for anyone who owns 10 gun haulers. I don't know.
Alex did.
Yes.
You played that, yeah.
All right. I'm not surprised in the least. Battle formation. Talk to me about are all equal in their power levels? Are we liking some more than others? I think there's a couple of standouts here, but I don't know.
I think there's 2 that you go for, and the other 2 I see less use. Let's put it that way. So the one Iron Sky Attack Squadron, who used to be a regiment in the 2nd edition. I love how they prefixed all these names and rules and for everything. Ignore the first damage point each phase. It's a very similar rule to what Ogre More Tribes have, that all your monsters ignore the first damage each phase, and that's, for them, it's great because you damage in the magic, damage from shooting, damage in combat, maybe movement. I don't know if there's some damage there. Here for boats, as I said, people should not be focusing on the boats, so it's less useful. And as we discussed also from regiments and list building, you seldomly will have more than 2 boats. I think you're not going to see 5-6 boats being played, just due to the cost of the boats. From maths wise. Aether-Runners +2 move to all sky vessels. Fantastic. We talked about it. Boats is what gets your troops around. Are you going to get 2-inch further, 2-inch more threat range? Great. You don't need to do anything. You just get +2. Now frigates have 14-inch move. That's a lot. The Engineers Guild Expeditionary Force Special Procurement. What a nice title. I like this one because it gives you flexibility, especially in tournament play. Because this happens in the deployment phase. After you've seen your opponent's list, after you deployed, you can pick an extra artifact. And the artifacts are good. 2 of them are good. So you can choose, maybe in your list you had 1, maybe you want another one, considering in this matchup, the other one's going to be really good. You can pick it. I think it's a valid choice. It's really good. And the Grunt Corps Wing, +3-inch range to the weapons used by Thunders and Gunhaulers. Forget the Gunhauler. Thunders is the one you're looking at. +3-inch range is great because now you are at 13 and 18 inches respectively for the weapons. Fantastic. And then you read again, and it's once per battle. So it's for that one turn where you're going all in with all your Thunders, if you have them in your list, and you want to shoot and you want to really get to your opponent. Sure. Just give +2 to your boat and you're going to get 2-inch fervor every turn. So why once per game 3 inches instead of every turn 2 inches? I don't know. Doesn't read that well. And then again, it's only the Thunderers and the Gunholders. And we established the Gunholders is not going to be the main thing you're going to use, so it's for Thunderers. So it can be good because there's another trait where you can get another +2 around the hero. So now it's +5. Sure, for alpha striking. Come down 9 inches away, and now you got +5-inch range, and you can hit those heroes behind the screens or the centerpiece if you're building around that specific list. But otherwise, broadly speaking, I think the Aether-Runners and Engineers Guild are just the picks.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would absolutely agree with you. Aether-Runners getting the +2 movement is great for the skyvessel, and then you could double down with the Field Sergeant if you want extra movement on your troops. Should you need that extra movement for some reason and you're not, making the most of your skyvessels. But to your point as well, like when I look at your artifacts, you have really good artifacts. The challenge with your artifacts is that if you go, let's say, for example, without Engineers Guild, right? And I'm like, I want the Void Orb, love the Void Orb. There's that one spell I want to stop any wizard, boom, gone. What happens when you play Khorne? What happens when you play Suns? It's like that one artifact is completely useless, and yes. I regret taking it from, in my list construction. But what if I could take, for example, we're obviously skipping ahead, but I take one of them, and then in the matchup, it's like, right, there's this monster I really need to get rid of. I'm worried about the 3d6 charge from Kragnos, or even a 2d6, Vlozdor or something. Cool. Chuck down, an artifact, or, you're up against, to your point, a wizard. Boom, I can use the orb. So regardless, you've got that tournament flexibility. So I think I would agree with you. Aether-Runners or the Guild would be the two ones I would go with.
So I don't know the statistics about this, but I bet Aether-Runners is above 85% of all the lists we've seen in tournaments. I think it's the number one choice.
Yeah. I would say that's probably a strong pick. I don't know about your numbers. I'll trust you on your numbers. Dwarf.
I said I don't know, but I think I can imagine because most of the lists I've seen, Aether-Runners is a good pick for them. Yeah.
Well, it's easy, right? Like, you often have one or two boats. You add +2 to movement. As you said, it's a better delivery mechanism than the Grun Corpse, because then, yes, you're not getting 3 inches, you're getting 2 inches, but it's affecting everybody. And it's not once per game. So, like, even
it's a once per game that, if that wouldn't be once per game, then it's a very valid pick. Then it's like the shooting cities one, plus in 3 inches for all shooting. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with you. If that was not once per battle and it was just, keep it restricted to your Thunderers and your Gun Haulers, I think that makes it definitely a viable choice. But the fact that it's only once, no, I'm good. Sorry, Grun Corpse. Sorry about that. Hero traits are interesting, I think. Yes. What do you think? Where do you stand with these three choices, and are there particular heroes that you like to give them to? Again, obviously lists are coming, but expand my mind here.
So I think again we have two which are very valid. The other one can be very fun. Let's put it that way. The Endermass is what I alluded to earlier, is +2 inch ranges for Kharadron infantry. So not the ships, wholly within 12 of the hero. You're often going to be in a bubble of your hero because your hero is going to transport with the boats and the troops. +2 inch range is very good, especially if you're going into Thunders, since many of their shots are 10 inches now. Then they're 12 inches. Good improvement. Grudge Bearer, that's been around since I can remember. Double the damage against one unit. It used to be, no, it's always been alter damage, shooting and combat. I think the best hero for this is either the Ender Master with dirigible suit, because he has a lot of shots Now you're doubling damage on those shots, and then he's good in combat. Or you can just use an Admiral. I think he's damage 3 attacks, now they're damage 6. It's fun. He's going to go in, he's going to do damage, hopefully, and then probably die. But it can be fun. It can be fun. It can be a fun thing to do if you have your friend that is always bringing his big monster or that one unit. It used to be enemy heroes, now it's just units. Cool. But usually your heroes are not in the fight. They're not in your front lines. So maybe this, but for shooting still. It doubles damage for shooting as well. Cool. It's a cool thematic thing. Grudge pair, is in the book of grudges, a double damage against that guy. Cunning Fleet Master, I think, is the one that's mostly used because you can just roll 2 redeploy dice and choose the one you like. And as we established, the transporting works with redeploy. It gives you more safety to actually get your people out of harm's way. Because what do you do? How does this work? This is important if you play against KO. I think KO players should really state this and explain it to their opponent before the game, because it can be very disappointing when this happens to you. You can move units wholly within 6 of you. So what you do, you have balloons or thunders or whatever, a screen wholly within 6 of your boat. The boat is 6 inches behind, so the front line is 6 inches apart. You, with your unit, let's say your Mega Gargant, you need to stop at least 3 inches away from me, because that's my personal space. We all need to stay out of the combat range, except Murder Lust, but that's a whole different topic. So you are, by definition, 9 inches away from the boat. Now I say, okay, you did all your movement. You're ready to charge me now after shooting. I'm going to redeploy the boat. And when I'm picking the boat to be redeployed, I'm going to roll 2 dice, choose the one I like most. So it gives you a good guarantee of getting maybe a 3 or a 4 in there. I'm going to move the boat, pick up my screen as well, place this screen now behind the boat. So now you are 9 inches plus my redeploy roll away from me. So if I roll a 4, you're 13 inches away. You cannot charge me anymore, unless you get a +2 charge or 3d6 charge. Now that's why I said 3d6 charge is problematic, because it can still reach you. But otherwise, our armies, if you roll that 4+ on your redeploy and you have two attempts now, they're not going to be able to charge you. And now they just stood there with their pants down in the middle of the field. Your Gargant is sitting there waiting for me in my next turn to shoot him, kill him, whatever. Even if I roll a 3, it's 11-inch charge. It's not very likely to happen. So it's a great mechanic to avoid being charged, to keep your stuff safe. And this is where the whole where to place, how to place comes in. Because what you want to avoid is putting 2 units in the front, redeploying away with the boat on 1 unit, the other one's still there. You can charge that unit, pile into the rest, you gain nothing. So you need to be really cautious how to screen and where to screen, and putting your boats in a position where they can redeploy your screen away with them. So I think that's the one trick that KO players have to avoid being charged, and it's a very powerful trick. Because you transport works, the boat cannot be in combat, but your unit can also be in combat. You can pick someone out of combat, take them away with you by redeploying. Yep.
So to break this down, just some people might have got lost on the process. No, like this for the people who still maybe no. It's a great insight, but to break this down, just so it's really clear for people, right? So I have a unit, Thunderers, as an example. I have a unit of Thunderers who are currently 8 inches away from one of my sky vessels. I trigger the redeploy, and they redeploy within 6 inches of a sky vessel. That now they
doesn't work. You need to redeploy the boat. They already need to be wholly within 6.
Cool. Break the process down for me. Sorry.
So you need to keep your screen wholly within 6, because the transport, as we read before, you can pick units wholly within 6 of your boat. Now, the screen is in front. The screen just enables your boat to be further away from your opponent's unit. 6 inches, ideally. You redeploy the boat, it's a move ability, and you're going to pick up your screen as well. And then when you set it up again, you're going to set the screen on the other side of the boat or to the side. So now you gained those 6 inches plus your redeploy, plus the 3 inches that your unit was away. So you gain a lot of movement by redeploying this. So you always move the boat and the unit away. So you just disappear out of 12 inches.
Yeah. So cool. So we jumped a couple of process. Cool. So you have the screen, you move the boat towards the screen, pick them up. They're now in the vessel, and then when they move again, they're going to be able to.
Yeah, there's no moving. The move is the redeploy of the boat.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you move away.
Yes, but they're in the boat, and then in your turn you move away.
In my turn, I probably engage you because you just stood there. You couldn't charge. Now you're a target in front of me.
Okay.
This is redeploy. This is happening in your turn.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right.
Okay.
It's too early in the morning for me. Like it's stupid o'clock. I think I get it. I'm sure it will.
It's a mechanic to avoid being charged.
Yeah. 100% get that. I'll be in the show. I'm like, oh, that's what Max is talking about. The weirdo.
Yeah. Once it happens to you, you understand it, and then it's a feel bad. So that's what I said. People should explain this. I usually explain this to my opponents before the game, just to be aware. If you're declaring a battle attack, I want to slay the Antwerp. I'm going to kill that unit. It's probably not going to happen if I'm allowed to redeploy the boat and the unit away. It helps against deep strike. You're 9 inches away. Maybe you get +2 to charge. Or you're 7 inches away, coming out of the Silver Tower. You're going to be 14 inches, 15 inches away after I've redeployed my screen. And then, what's the next thing? The unit, the screen, did not use redeploy. It just got set up. It can still cover fire. So that's a worst case.
Mm-hmm.
Now I redeployed, and I can cover fire against the units that you were just putting in front of me. Or this can also it's a very powerful ability. I think it's the key ability for KO. You just put a unit over here in this objective. Say, I'm gonna attack on 2 fronts. It's just that 1 or 2 people. That's my objective. I can redeploy a boat, put the unit on the other side closer to those 2, and then say, I'm gonna covering fire on those 2. Kill them, you fail the battle attack, you don't score the objective. Things like seize the center. I can redeploy units. People underestimate the threat range that gives to units. Because you always have that within 6, you can just jump the boat in that process. Plus the movement of the boat, be it a redeploy or the 14-inch move that we discussed. So units are going to move their dwarves, 4-inch move. They're going to move 20+ inches over the board with this ability.
I get
it. And that's why redeploy, because for that instance, is really the redeploy Cunning Fleet Master ability is really powerful.
And I think this goes back to everything we said at the start of the show. Again, sorry, folks, if I seem like a deer in headlights for a second. I haven't had coffee, haven't had breakfast. This is early morning for me recording, but I'm with it now. I'm catching up. I'm slowly catching up because I think initially when I asked you the question, I'm thinking of 3rd edition redeploy where it's triggered off 9. I like that.
Yeah.
My God.
No. Now you can just redeploy anywhere.
I know. No, I know now. It's just like my brain's still waking up. Like, what? That's why I'm like. Anyway, this goes back to everything we were saying before about the nuance and how one mistake can cost you, and it's a very you've got to have precision with KO because one, and obviously I don't want to put the fear of God in you that if you make one mistake your game completely ends.
No.
But because you don't have a lot of wiggle room or a lot of fat that you can make mistakes and still recover, you've got to be really precise and deliberate because, one model that isn't within 6 inches will stop you from using the Skyfarer ability or the transport ability. So being really deliberate with your measurements, being really deliberate with your plans, and being very precise is going to get you to the highest echelon of performance with KO. Like it's certainly a challenging one, but also a rewarding one.
It is a few aspects. You need to allow space to actually redeploy the boat. Don't put a hero behind the boat, and now you cannot redeploy the boat because you're going to be on top of your hero. And that's also how to catch boats for people playing against KO. can you come up out of Deep Strike, Soulblight maybe, or from the flanks behind the boat? So now it can redeploy to the back, but now there's closer to that unit that just came up from Deep Strike. Can you corner them, push them towards the board edge? Because you can redeploy, but you're going to hit the board edge eventually. So there are ways around this, of course, definitely. But it can be very powerful. Yeah.
Considering we've just talked about 10 hours on this one particular heroic trait, I think it makes it very clear that, look, there's two, in my opinion, that are the best. If you are someone who likes the tactics, I think everything we just spoke about, Cunning Fleet Master, is the strongest.
I think, again,
if you're
it's the 90% pick, I think.
If you just want to run forward and go, pew, 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 you go Endrin Maestro, right? Like you just want to get as close as you can, you shoot off a bunch of people, or maybe you want to go Grudge Bearer as well. I think they're very, very clear of what they want to do. But I think for most people, you're going Cunning Fleet Master.
Yeah. Although Endrin Master definitely has its place, at least with more focus on shooting. Absolutely.
Yeah. If you were going heavy infantry, you're getting lots of ironclad with a big boat and like all these things, or maybe you're going, Thunderers. Maybe you're going, maybe you're ditching the boats altogether. You've got your +2 movement from a field sergeant and just get a.
It's an interesting list idea I've been playing around with. Yeah, just walking up a lot of Thunderers and shooting can be interesting. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like KO, but it's definitely you could.
No, just a gun line moving up, on a pre-up series. So.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. Like it can be done, but field sergeant's probably going to disappear in 3 or 4 months, right? Like the chance of it. So I wouldn't rely on it. Just play KO as play. Although maybe play it as make the most of it now while it's around.
So, I mean, we have a KO book on the horizon, so. Maybe everything we discussed today changes in a few months.
We will definitely talk about wish listing at the end and wonder what we hope to see in that book. Artifacts. Now this is the fun because all 3 of them are wonderful. The question is, which one do you pick if you've only got one?
So KO, and I think dwarves in general, so also Fire Slayers, they always used to have very cool artifacts, very good choices. I still do. These are not new. Some of these used to be abilities. Some of these used to be artifacts. They have not reinvented the wheel, but the Voidstone Orb is a classic. It's just a reaction how to unbind. That's it. It's that one where you tell your opponent, yes, you can try your teleport, but keep in mind, I could just stop it there. Great. It's unfortunately only one use, but still. Great. The burst grenade used to be an ability on a 2+ that drove me crazy. And it only used to be the shooting phase. Now it's you remove a ward rolls cannot be made for the rest of the turn. You just pick, say, that one once per battle, no ward. And that is very powerful. If you play against Nurgle, that unit with a 5 ward. Or, I don't know, that big hero that we discussed before, that centerpiece. Most of them have wards. If you're playing a centerpiece that doesn't have a ward, it's not a good centerpiece. Just 5 wards, you're just going to add a third of damage. And it's the whole turn is a good thing. It's not just shooting, because then also it goes through the combat phase. Fantastic. Just need to be there in 12 inches, say. No ward. Great pick. The other one, all of these are once per battle. This one is any shooting or combat phase. It's a bit weird from the timing, because it's an enemy monster within 12, and then until the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from the rolls. So you apply this in your turn, and then fly away or do something else, and then it's still valid throughout their turn. It also works for counter charging, but it's a bit weird because you can do it in the shooting or the combat phase. So combat phase is after charge phase. So I don't know. It's a bit awkward, but you can maybe charge, have the combat phase pile in, and now you're in range of 12 inches of the monster behind. Now you can actually apply it. Maybe that's why they chose these two. But in combination with the redeploy, it can be very strong because maybe you have that one monster in the flank. You say, okay, you can only charge D6. And the other one, on the other end, I'm going to do my redeploy trick that we've discussed for half an hour. I cannot be charged. And the other one still needs to do a roll of 4 up on a D6 if he actually gets within 3 inches. So it's a protective thing on both edges. Now you're a bit protected. So that's what we said before with the formations. All 3 are good. If you play against Khorne, the Voidstone Orb's not going to do much for you. So having the ability to choose maybe something against a hero, a monster, or removing a ward if you're playing Night Haunt or Nurgle or whatever, it can be very good.
So my question, Max, is if I don't take the formation that gives me a second artifact, which is the one? Let's assume I live in a world where I pick one artifact, or even list construction, right? I go pick one, and then the other one's the flex. What's the one that I put on? You would go burst grenade?
Yes. Most armies nowadays have a ward somewhere, I think. Even if it's just, I mean, Alt F has a ward. It's only a 6-up, but still can make a difference to actually assuring that you're going to kill that one unit for your battle tactic. Because the Voidstone Orb is just, it's good, but the problem is the once per game, in my opinion. It's very good. It can be situationally very good, but that's the thing. It's situationally very good. The burst grenade, you're going to be able to apply it eventually in the game. Something's going to run around on a ward somewhere, I think.
My thoughts is they both, I don't think there's a bad choice on either of them.
No, absolutely not. No, don't get me wrong. I think the least one is the first one. Because if your opponent doesn't have monsters, what are you going to do?
Correct. And I think everything you said about the burst grenade, you could say with the orb. Most armies have a wizard. Yes, there's a couple of outliers with priests, but most have a wizard. If it stops the Kron Spine or the Purple Sun or the bridge or something hitting the table, it's worth its weight in gold or a particular spell. But it's, I guess, read your meta. You know, are you more likely to see wards or more likely to see spell?
Against counter magic teleports, I'd say. That's the strongest thing you can stop. I mean, Siege. You declare the battle attack, they're just going to counter spell, teleport a unit over there, you're not going to score, take the land or something. We see less Siege now, at least here in Europe. I don't know if I'm the same State of Tides, teleport in your opponent's turn with +2.
Gits have Hand of Gork, they've just gotten a new battle tome. Orcs have their little teleport endless spell now. They're about to hit the table. So you're right. I think just read the meta. Either one is probably not.
It can be very strong. I think the main problem I have with Voidstone Orb is you're going to stop it for that turn, and the next turn, they're still going to do it. So you need to be sure to kill that thing. It can be very powerful. If it's that, we used to have armies that were very reliant on that one spell to go off. I think Sylvaneth, the endless spell that gave him +2 to charge, or +3 after coming through the woods. If you stopped that, you had a good chance that they wouldn't charge you with Durfu and his glorified sword with 3,000 attacks. I don't know what. I think less now you have that one spell that they need to get through, where you can really screw with them. I think that's my impression.
No, you're right. You're right. Outside of like Mind Razor with Daughters of Cain, there's not a lot of spells where you just know for a fact that's what they want, that's what they need, and the spell going off will depend if it's go time. Like, you're right.
Yeah, I think Slaves, the 3d6 charges are very good.
Sure, but there's also the banner that can get them around it, so they don't need. I think either one, they're both good choices. Read the meta. I think there's arguments on both sides. To your point, the burst grenade has a longer duration. So yes, while it's once per battle, it triggers for the rest of the turn. So you can get more bang for buck.
Yeah, burst grenade just allows you to delete something.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. What's more important to you, I think, is ultimately the question. So, Max, we've got a couple of lists, and then we might talk a little about units to kind of drill down a little. I'm going to read out the list, and you can explain to me what it's all about and why it's built this way and anything I need to know. So this is the Aether-Runners List that... it's a Aether-Runners List. It's not the Aether-Runners List. Comes in at 1990, 2 drops, no spells, no manifestations. Regiment 1 is, maybe you get a wizard from a regiment of renown, but not in this particular list. So you've got Brock. Love seeing Brock. I was going to ask you about Brock because, man, I remember back in the day where he's tied to like Barrack, whatever, and but yeah, I was going to say Burgundy, Brognar. And like, you just like, it's like, I want to run him, but no one ever runs this sub faction. So good to see, Mr. Moustache on the battlefield. You've got a Arcanaut frigate. You have Endrin Riggers reinforced, Sky Wardens reinforced. Second unit is a Code Right with the Celestium Burst Grenade and the Cunning Fleet Master, who also has the Arcanaut Company not reinforced, a Gun Hauler, and another unit of reinforced Sky Wardens. So simple in its build, but there's a lot of deliciousness in the 2 regiments.
Yeah. So first off, this list I just stole in good old KO manure. It's not mine. I borrowed it for indefinite time. This was played by Italian player Jordi at the team event in Austria 2 weeks ago. I faced him and I really liked it. And I've seen variations of this list, slight variations, but I think the core is the same and it's valid to discuss. It's a good example of a aggressive combat list, so frigates and balloons. Brock, he came down a few points last update. I think through 3rd edition he was from above 300 and then at the end he was 220 or something. The every update they made him cheaper because no one was using him. In the end he was valid. What he allows you here is you can bring 3 boats with 2 regiments because the Code Red can only bring 1 boat. He can bring any KO units in his regiment, so also boats. And what he does mainly is a few things. One is he gives an extra attack to 2 units, infantry units within 3 inches of himself. Before, in the past, it used to be if he charges, everyone in a bubble gets an extra attack. Now he doesn't need to charge; he just needs to be there, and he gets an extra attack, which is good in a combat list. And the other thing is, once per game, he can grant 3 sky vessels wholly within 24, run and shoot and charge. So it makes your boats even faster.
Yeah.
Now the frigate has 12 inches. With Aether-Runners, it has 14 inches move. Auto run 20 inches. So it moves 20 inches, and then it can still shoot and charge and whatnot. That's 20 inches is a lot. With 3 boats. So that's when it's go time, he presses the button and everyone goes. I can actually reach further. So he's great. He's a War Master, I believe. So he needs to beat the general. Sure. 8 wounds, 3 up save.
Yeah.
He's a good combat profile. 5 attacks with 2 damage. He has a good shooting profile. He has 1 shot like an Ironclad. 6 shots with 2 damage. And he does some mortal wounds end of turn. With his mustache guns, there used to be actual shooting profile. Then last book, it was end of combat phase. He did mortal wounds. Now it's end of turn. Sure. It's the classic on a 2+ on a D3. He does that amount of mortal wounds. It's a bonus. The frigates we discussed, they have an ability, assault boat, that allows you to charge and then pick 2 units up to the transport capacity, so 2 balloon units usually of 6 with it, and then they go with it. They need to be wholly within 3 inches. They themselves do not need to be in combat. But you're going to place... So you have the option, if the opponent has some combat abilities, strike glass, what else? Just stay 3 inches out and then pile in, because they count as having charged. And when they do it through the frigate, they get fight first. And that's the main power of the list. You can send in Brock and 9 balloons, 2 of those units with extra attacks if you place them well, and they're all going to strike first. That's a lot of damage coming at you. So Sky Wardens now with 3 attacks, crit 2 mortals, Ender Riggers with 4 attacks, D3 damage, and 2 rend. Ender Riggers usually is your honor guards. You give them another rend against specific opponents. So they're running around with 4 attacks each, 3 rend, D3 damage. They can do a lot. So the other day I played against slaves, and in one turn I just deleted 2 units of 10 chosen. It's just, I mean, one gets 3 rend to the face, so they're going to save 5s or 6s, plus the shooting, and the other one just gets the crit mortals. So it's a lot of damage that you can deliver. You need to be very careful, because balloons, 6 of them have 12 wounds and a 4-up save. You have no bonus to rally. You have no wards. You get a -1 to hit Popple from the ship. So the fight first really helps them to get the most of them. You send them in, they kill something, and because they fought first, 2 or 3 units get the fight. So there's no hit back, hopefully. Why the 1 unit of Ender Riggers is just down to the points, because you need 20 points more for Sky Wardens. I think Ender Riggers have a place because they have rend, have more attacks. Their damage is comparable to Sky Wardens, but Ender Riggers can heal both. It's just a choice. I think they're very equal. Damage-wise, Sky Wardens are a bit better without the buffs because of the crit mortals. And Sky Wardens also have an ability, end of turn, if they're still in combat on a 3-up, they can retreat without taking damage and deal D3 mortals. Second regiment, the Code Ride, he's there because he's 80 points. He fits in there. All the other heroes are 110 or 130 points. Now for 80 points, he's someone that carries the burst grenade and gives you the 2 dice for the redeploy. Fair enough. His ability is useful. You can pick 3 units anywhere on the board. You just need to see them. And on the 3+, you can grant them a bonus. The one you're mostly going to use is +1 to run and charge. So now your frigate has +1 to charge. And to run if you're using the run and charge once per game. The company is just a screen. Because with KO, I think you always used to and still want to play in the double. You want to take a double turn. Because a double turn of this can end the game. Yeah. Because you're playing a lot of damage and then you're doing it all again. The gunhauler is in here for battle tactics, and that's it. And these guy ones actually belong to the boats, to the other regiment, but they're just with him because of restrictions, of unit restrictions. That's the idea. So you have this core of boats with balloons and Brock. You can move them together. You can move them to 2 sides. You can keep one of the boats in reserve if you want to. And the rest is just the screen for turn 1. And then they're going to sit on an objective, the Arcanauts, and the gunhauler goes around scoring battle tactics. And the Code Ride just runs behind or teleports around for the redeploy and +1 charge ability. That's it. Basically, it's 2 boats and balloons.
Yeah, you've got two boats of just absolute concentrated power, and whether you split them off and they do things, independently, or you just absolute focus fire 2 boats just all in with Brock and friends. You've got, and then as you said, rinse and repeat. So you delete that critical units, then you go out and go do it again. It goes back to the old play style of just the focused fire. But instead, you've reversed the role, and it's now combat. Like, it's just,
yep.
And the beauty of that is, if you go in combat, you're actually on the objective. Another thing is, the key thing is the fight first. The beauty of it is you can pick 2 combats. You can engage on 2 fronts. You're going to fight first on all of them. And also, one thing we need to mention with the frigate is the charge ability, and they clarified this again in the last FAQ. It works in counter charge. So if your opponent is somewhere near your boat in their turn, you can spend those 2 command points, because you don't need many command points with KO. Maybe a rally in the hero phase. All out attack and all out defense, or free roll charge somewhere, depending. The redeploy is very important. You want to keep a command point for that. So if you have 2 command points and it's the bottom of the round, sure, counter charge with a frigate. Your opponent needs to deal with 12 balloons fighting before him, because it still gives them the strike first.
And they've clarified that, because obviously when I look at the app, it just says your charge phase. So
yeah, because counter charge allows you to use a charge ability as it was your turn.
Yep.
So it always worked, and now they just clarified it in the FAQ. Yes, it works.
Amazing, because you can see like it does say core, charge, and move, so like that will allow you to be eligible. But yeah, cool, okay, that makes sense.
So that's another thing that if people don't pay attention, like, yeah, I can do that. Then I can charge you, and I get strike first. And the other thing is a frigate has 15 wounds. What do we like to do with units that have more wounds? Power through. So you can deliberately charge maybe a screen, kill the big hammer unit, still be in combat with a screen, say, okay, I'm going to power through the frigate. Power through is a move ability. I can use transport. And you take your ship 14 inches away, all your balloons with it, and you're safe again on the back, or you're on the objective, or you're someone else. And that's the whole, what I meant. It's a bit skill dependent. You need to plan ahead, how to charge, where to charge, how to play, but there's a lot of things you can do with this.
Max, help me with this, right? Because if I'm someone who is new to KO, and maybe I don't have the reps like you do, how do I plan ahead? Like, how do I read the battlefield? And obviously we can't just plan it out like it's a game of chess, but how do I get better at that? And what advice, or what are maybe the trigger moments, or the things that I should be thinking about to help me get a little further ahead and plan for this?
So, in my personal opinions, I'm not know-it-all and best player there is for KO. I've not played him much in this edition, but my understanding with this army is rather play defensively and do not overextend yourself. Wait for them, if they castle up, wait for them to spread out, because they need to get on objectives, they need to scar battle tactics, they're gonna loosen up and, separate a little bit. And then pick your targets, and then you can go in hard, because you're gonna delete whatever you touch with a boat and balloons. Usually you're gonna delete it. Take the ward away, whatever you need to do. But think ahead in terms of, if I do this, what can he do if he gets the next turn? Or she, your opponent. Is it worth it to, I would delete it now, these 10 knights, but I'm facing down the chosen behind. Yes, I can save myself with the redeploy trick if I'm not stuck in combat anymore, but maybe don't choose this engagement. Go to the other flank. Kill the Furies, shoot the Furies, and kill another unit of warriors. But there's no imminent threat in their turn, in their next turn. So rather be a bit more cautious, I think, because you are very fragile. Yes, you have all these movement abilities, but if it goes wrong, if they tag you, if they can charge a screen and then pile into you, it can ruin a lot of your game plans. So I think it will take a lot of repetitions in the beginning to really figure this out. I'm still trying to figure out myself how to charge, where to charge. Do I keep the boats together as a murder ball? Do I separate them? Depends obviously on your opponent. to keep one behind the other. So if you're gonna engage with one, I can counter charge with your one and free it and save it. It's try it. Don't give up. Don't be frustrated, because the first games you're gonna lose your boats turn 2 or 3, and you're gonna be very sad and hate balloons and they're rubbish. That was me at the start of the edition. It can be very rewarding if it works out, if you get what you want.
My advice, and we'll wrap this one up in a second and go to your other list in a minute. Be deliberate with what you're doing. I think, getting your 3, 6, and 9 inch measurements available, like really understanding, if I'm going to move my boat forward, for example, what is the distance between me and my opponent? And then the unit that I'm facing, what's their movement characteristic? Can they run and charge? What's the charge distance going to be? If I have the redeploy, what's the distance if I'm trying to protect this unit, right? In this particular example, I want to move up the boat, I want to shoot a whole bunch of things, and then I don't want to be engaged. I don't want to fight yet. Cool. Be very deliberate of that process. Think about what your plan, like at minimum, I'm going to get a redeploy of a 1. In the worst case scenario, I get double 1. Cool. I'm just going to get a 1. So the distance between me and here is X. That's an unlikely charge or a likely charge. So maybe I don't advance as forward, or maybe I sacrifice some of my shorter range attacks just to protect me, because what's more important to me is protecting the boat and the troops rather than shooting off a couple of extra troops. So just be very deliberate. And then if it doesn't work, you know what you did, and you know that it was a deliberate move, rather than I just moved up the board and I don't know the distance and then I got charged and oh crap.
Yes, absolutely. Maybe one thing I forgot to mention about this list is the frigate weapons, the heavy skyhook.
I was going to ask you that. That was my last question before you moved to
It's 2 shots with Ren 2 d6 damage against monsters Ren 3, 24 inches. So in this list, you have 4 shots Ren 3 d6 damage. It can, if you're lucky with your rolls, it can really kill that one monster, that big guy. Not a Gargant, but maybe a Bellicor. Yeah. Spend on all of you. 2 shots, 3s and 2s. Give her 1 4s and 2s. No, they won't unfreeze. This guy is the...
Yeah. I was going to ask you, because like when you look at it on paper,
they're very... 3 and then d6 damage. It's a nice with the ship weapons. It was always what you choose, and I think this guy who was not chosen often in the past, but now I think with the Ren 3 d6 damage, it's decent against monsters. It's a nice threat. People need to respect it a bit.
Sky Cannon gives you more consistency because you're wounding on 2s rather than wounding on 3s, and you get the consistency of D3 plus 1 rather than being D6.
Yeah.
If you're shooting into monsters, you clearly want the Skyhawk to make that a Ren 3 attack, and you hope to, obviously, you have the more damage potential of having up to 6 damage rather than up to 4. It's an interesting choice. I think it goes back to as well your meta pick, where we do have more centerpieces, and you probably have enough shooting to handle cavalry and infantry, but you don't have as much to handle the monsters consistently. So I can see why you go Skyhawk. But if that
the early there to shoot people, so it's a nice to have. So I might as well go with the bonus against monsters.
Yeah. 6 months ago, when we were in that cavalry meta, you would go the Sky Cannon every day. But now, it's a good time for the Skyhawk.
Yeah, you could also discuss with the Gunhauler to take the drill. It's just a 1 shot, then 3 damage. Sure, but also Gunhauler is not there for damage. It's just pick whatever you built on your model. Gunhauler doesn't mind. Makes no difference. The rest, balloons, they're all melee equipped. I don't rate the special weapons for balloons anymore. They used to be 24 inches, 8 inch, and now it's a shame. I have...
they used to be the cool thing. It used to be
20 of them sitting there. 20 of them with all the special weapons. 15 inches, you got the 12 inch move, but they don't do much. The melee weapon does much more. It's not worth it.
The saw.
The saw or the sky pike, depending which ones you're talking about. They have the same special weapons. They're identical that term. Yeah.
So I was looking at the Aether-Runners Profile at first. Now I've jumped back to the Sky with the Sky Wardens. Yeah, the Sky Pike is good with the crit mortals too.
Yeah, and the Aether-Runners is just rend, more attacks, more rend, D3 damage. So, yep.
Anything else about this? I mean, we had a pretty robust conversation. Any final? I did want to ask you about the Skyhook versus Sky Cannon. So I'm glad you brought that up before I did. Anything else before the other one?
Yeah, this list has no unbinds, no interaction with magic. That's maybe one downside. You're just gonna watch your opponent do his thing. You can get one if you're sitting next to a place of power, if you heal. And that's maybe something you want to look out for when you're looking at the table. Where's the place of power? Maybe when you deploy your units, that they maybe turn 2, they're going to sit next to a place of power. Because it's having an unbind or not in this list.
And you can always get, you're right. I've been playing without wizards, obviously in my son's list, and it hasn't been that bad. Like I just concentrate on what I do. I concentrate on what I do really well, and you're no different. You're just, you just concentrate on what you do really well, accept the limitation. It's just that you have the real good power of being able to shoot off those manifestations, while my only way is really just to charge into them and no. When you hit on 5s, one attack hit on 5s, no.
Yeah.
Yes, no. So the other list we'll go to is your Engineer Guild list. So it's the Engineers Guild expenditure. Oh, it's so early in the morning. I need coffee. It's this one. It's the double artifact one. All right. Yeah. So I haven't got breakfast yet. So you've got 2 regiments. Again, no spell law. 2 drops. First one, you've got the Admiral, which is the General, Burst Grenade, and Cunning Fleet Master. You've got your Arcanaut Company, again, just not reinforced. You have a Ironclad with the Skyhawk. You have the Grundstock Thunderers, which is reinforced, and you've got 4 of the. You got the Mortar / engine.
Yeah, now they combine the profiles.
Yeah. I was gonna say I
built 45 of them of all special weapons. Now they reduced it to 2.
And they just generically went, you have this or this. It's just the same thing. So look, I don't mind the simplicity, but I also did enjoy the customization. I remember, I think were you guys the first ones that caused all the issues in second or first when people were just kit bashing the unit with all the pipes?
Mortar. That was for the first book, the mortar, because it had 36-inch range and a lot of damage, and people just took 5 of them, and then they FAQ'd the book 2 weeks later.
Yep, I remember everyone getting the bits, and everyone was just trying to get mortars.
And it was the same with the company. The Skyhook, light Skyhook for Arcanaut Company was, you could give 10 man, you could have 3 of them. So a 40-man unit in Tempest Eye had 12 shots. Then with Chemist gave an extra shot. So you had 24 shots coming out of Arcanauts with D3 damage and run 2 at 24 inches. Something stupid, ludicrous.
Wow. You're paying for the sins of the past. I love it. Then quickly, the second regiment, and then you can tell me about this list, is you got the Etheric Navigator with the Arcanaut Frigate with the Skyhawk, a reinforced unit of Engine Riggers, and a reinforced unit of Sky Warden. So some commonality, but also some big differences.
So this, I think, is a more balanced approach. Maybe if you're new to KO or looking to play KO in 4th edition again, maybe it's a good pick for your first adventures, because it has both. It gives you a taste of both. You have the Ironclad with the Thunderers, the Admiral. You go forward, you can shoot people, and then you still have that frigate combat boat with the 2 kind of balloons, Engine Riggers and Skywards. The Navigator gives you an unbind. That's great. And the Navigator, I really like him. I love him since forever. because he is a great control piece because he dishes out half move to other units. So now, again, we're playing into this theme, don't get caught, apply power where you decide to. He helps you. You're going to half move that unit and that unit if you're lucky with your rolls. They're no issue next turn because they're going to move 3 inches. They're not going to be trouble for you. You don't need to think about them for the next turn. You can handle these people over here. It's only 18 inches. It used to be something like 30 inches or 36. But still. And the nice thing about his ability is also, before it used to be that you had to choose. You want to make boats faster or half move someone. Now you just roll 6 dice. 1s you can half move someone and dish out mortal wounds. 6s you can grant extra move to your boats. So plus 3 inches now the frigate has 15-inch move, or the ironclad has 13, respectively 15 if you choose the Emerald Work for plus 2. Ironclad is just there because it's a big boat. You want to play your big toys. It has decent shooting, and it has the capacity to move around those 10 thunderers and some heroes. The Admiral, he works well with the Ironclad because he can choose a flagship start of the game, and he can always give all its attack to the boat for free without a command point being spent. You're still using the ability, but it doesn't cost you anything. And once per game, you can give extra attacks. The Ironclad also has this great skyhook. So extra attacks on all profiles, that's 3 shots with all of the attack for free. 2s and 2s, rend free d6 damage against the monster. Not bad. You're going to deal some damage, plus all the other shots that you have. So he's a good pick, I think, as a general overall. And in combination, especially in combination with an Ironclad, because they have some synergy there.
If Drecky Flint was a little cheaper, let's say he was closer to the Navigator price, would you bring Drecky into that regiment, or do you think the Navigator plays the role better?
Drecky is interesting because he can do a lot of damage in shooting if you roll hot. But yeah, the extra damage on the combat attacks of a frigate, like it's 8 attacks, 4s and 4s. I don't care if it's damage 1 or 2. You're gonna do 1 or 2 damage. The reroll run and charge can be good, but you don't have a run and charge in this list, so it's only a reroll the charge roll what you're gonna use.
Yes.
I
That's
rate
why I'm asking the question.
more. I rate Navigator more because I like his. You have that 1 unbind, and the half move can be really good. If you roll 1 or 2 or 3 ones, that's super good. Your opponent's army, just the 3 main things in your opponent's army are going to be half move. It's very strong.
Yeah, it's just interesting because if I think about, putting a bunch of balloon boys, for example, into a frigate, and then I get the ability to re-roll charges. That's why I'm like, oh, this could, if I'm going to go all in on this assault boat.
I think his ability is the boat needs to be what range?
It's the
Aceling.
The Aceling, the deployment rule, or the she can handle it. So she can handle it is within combat range. So I imagine.
Yeah, he's not going to be there. He is 4-inch move. Because there's no space for him. Because you're bringing 12 balloons.
Oh, so yeah.
So he's still at the start line.
Okay, right.
That's the problem with him with the X-Rated. Yeah. That's what I meant, the 12 people in a boat.
I'm thinking he's in the boat. I'm like, oh, of course. If I can have
ended Skywards, or you can do that. Energies and Skywards move 12 inches, so they can pick up. They can keep up with the boat, and they just need to be wholly within 6 when it charges, so they can be behind the boat. It's a feasible thing because if you're planning to do power through, so using the transport, you cannot use it if you have already used the transport in the turn. So you don't want to use it in the movement phase if you're planning for the power through. So then you need to you can actually run them. You forgo the shooting with the energies, but okay, sure, it's just a few shots. But then you get the charge because they don't charge themselves; they just count as having charged if they go with the frigate. So yeah, you can work around it, but
I think the restrictions to the transport capacity, which is where I'm like, maybe I'm thinking a little bit about 3rd edition rules, where like because the 2 friendly units and the 12 cap, right? I was thinking like, oh, maybe even if I go like a unit of 6 and a unit of 3 and then Drekkie, well, yes, that would be within the transport limits, but I'm not eligible to have more than 2 in the frigate. So that kind of pulls me back. So I can see the argument where if I was going to take Drekkie, I would have to either sacrifice some of the troops that are being in it or, I don't know if a reroll charge is worth it. I'll take that back. We explored it. It was an interesting question.
Command point.
Move along. Move along.
Because you're going to charge with only that one boat, the frigate. So just spend a command point.
If that capacity was just like 3 units and 13, then it's a different conversation.
Wow, then you can...
Different conversation, right? Like if you have...
You can
have like
2 of them and Brock in one boat. Yeah, it's interesting. Different world. Maybe next book.
Well,
I don't think so.
We're about to get to that point. Point. I think.
Yeah. So this is a very balanced list. You have what you're gonna do. You have your ironclads gonna move forward. The thunders are gonna deploy in front of it. They've been transported. They don't want to charge anyway. They cannot charge if they've been transported themselves. They're just gonna sit there, shoot. If people approach you from the front, redeploy the boat, take the funds with you behind, you're safe for next turn. That's the main idea. The company is in there because you could fit 100 points and they're a good screen. Just sit I think the Admiral gives more control score to company. It's not going to matter. If someone touches them, they're dead, but it's another interaction. We found another one. So what you have is you have a shooting platform, the ironclad and the thunderers. And then you have this go in and mess people up frigate with the balloons. The navigators, he's in that regiment, but he's going to travel with the ironclad. He's going to be the 3rd unit for the ironclad most of the times. And that's it. That's all you get. You get 2 boats and a few people, unfortunately. That's all you get in this army. Everything's quite expensive.
This is much more of a mixed arms, and the last one was like all in on combat. This one definitely is more utility, plays different play. It doesn't do as well as the first, but what it does, but it obviously has more flexibility and variety.
And you have now the option here with get a second artifact for the navigator if you want to.
Yes, bingo. Rewind for a second. I want to go back to something you mentioned. I should have caught it when we talked about it, but I jumped ahead. You mentioned at the start of this list discussion with the Aether-Runners that you've seen a bunch of variants to this list. Mm-hmm. Can you give me some examples of where maybe if you were going to tweak it, like where the tweaks may lay?
You drop the gun holder. You add in another screen. Because here you're really dependent on making the charge, so you want to keep your boat safe. You add in another Arcana Company screen, maybe, and that gives you points to upgrade the code right to a navigator or even an Ender Master on foot, because he gives boats retreat and shoot and charge. So if you actually get tagged, people get your boat. He's your get out of jail for free card. It's not 2+, but why not? He's a good option. So the Ender Master without the balloon, the small guy, who I believe still in this book is the only guy that doesn't have a gun. I think the last edition they stole his gun. He misplaced it somewhere. And
who's that?
Still the Ender Master with what's it called? Pumping harness. No, the extra harness.
Yeah. He has no shooting. He's just got a big old hammer.
Yeah. I think he missed his gun. He used to have a very good shot, and then somehow in 3rd edition he lost it. He misplaced it.
Surprised he hasn't got a gun on that hammer, like just pew, some type of rifle, pistol.
Yes, I don't recall what the model.
has no.
I don't.
No.
I don't see. I don't see a gun on the picture. Surely the KO.
No, some of them have a gun in a holster, but. And then the Code Right, what's the best thing about him? He's gonna attack you with a battle tome.
I did laugh at that. I did laugh at that.
It's nice. It's decent, different damage.
Fours
It's a heavy one. It's a heavy book.
Fours and fours. It's certainly not a KO battle tome.
No.
Maybe more of a Stormcast kind of battle tome, though it has no rend. Oh, Max, you make me laugh. Look, we've talked a lot about KO, considering how little. I mean, there's a decent amount of War Scrolls, but it's very hero heavy, as everyone knows.
As all the dwarf armies are. That's your new book. Here's a hero. It's the same with Fireslays. I think they have 20 heroes and 3 troop choices.
Yeah,
KO are a bit better off because they have the boats, and then you have shooty troops, you have those standard troops, and you have your melee variations, the balloons, which are faster. That's something Fireslays miss a bit because they're all on foot and they all look the same. But still, yeah, it's a lot of heroes. All these dwarf armies always get an extra hero.
Well, 2 burning questions, at least from Discord, and then we can kind of wrap things up. Fitzy, this is a really interesting question for me because KO is a faction that a few factions, and KO is definitely one of them, Luminous another, Suns can be one, is like, what do you think could be changed to make the army more enjoyable to play against? Now, disclaimer, this came from a KO player. So I don't ever want someone to rock up to the table feeling bad about their army. Like, sometimes there's that really crappy experience. It's not your fault. If you want to combat, you want something durable, you don't have the tools. You're forced to kind of play in a certain play style. But I can also see that there are sometimes those interactions come up where someone gets matched up to a KO player and they roll their eyes. So maybe my thoughts to you, like from your experiences, what do you think could possibly change, or what do you think might need to be changed to make it more of a fun experience for both of us?
So, yeah, as you mentioned, some armies in Age of Sigmar have this inherent army design problem. Suns used to be, it's just, you only have 4 models, then they need a lot of control score, which ended up with, I'm going to sit on the objective and wait for a bus. Like, the army in itself has this problem where people were not sure how to solve it. And KO had the same, it's all shooting people and teleporting in a melee game. So already you're playing a different game. Or you used to play a different game. Now it's more because you do some melee. And I understand that completely. It's very uninteractive and annoying, especially it used to be in second edition. For edition, we didn't have these interactions and commands that you could use, redeploy, covering fire, and so on. You just stood there and picked up models that died and removed models without ever fighting back because you just got shot. Yes, okay, that's 3 damage here, and another 2, and another 3, just remove them all. It's a horrible game. I understand it completely. What can they change for KO? It can be the same effect now with that redeploy thing. If I'm trying to charge you with my Argos, I cannot reach you because you did your redeploy trick, and there's nothing I can do against it. I don't know. Maybe if you want to redeploy the boat on a condition, so a free up something.
I'm going to put this out there, man.
I'm going to nerf yourself
Max,
a bit.
Max, this is what I think. I actually think that a lot of the changes have already happened. You mentioned, the fly high, like that used to grind our gears. There were certain things that happened in previous editions. I think the assault boat, or the introduction to the assault boat, has definitely helped. Now, I don't like to fight first, especially when you do that shenanigans, but like at least we're engaging. Like if I'm coming to combat, I don't want to just keep chasing you constantly and you keep moving away, shoot. They've introduced, I think the challenge, and I'm going to ask you the next question, which kind of segues nicely, is the army isn't built to scrap. And I think a lot of Age of Sigmar players want to scrap. They want to get into the middle. They want to contest objectives. They want to fight. They want to trade. They want to punch. They want to do stuff.
No.
And the army just doesn't brawl.
No, it does not. You're gonna lose that grind. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very.
you just can't. Like, you cannot grind unless you chuck in a bunch of boats and the boats aren't cheap enough. You can't grind. Like, your troops just do not grind. Which then kind of leads me to the question around, well, like, this is the question from Discord, Tenery asking, their words, not mine. After multiple years of getting spoilt with foot heroes, KO is in dire need of actual new units. How would you expand KO's limited range while keeping the KO identity there? What do you think we'll to see in this year's battle tomes lurking in the skies? I couldn't have asked a better question to wrap up the show.
So there's what I think, there's what I want.
All right.
What I think is we have seen a rumor engine of a sky pike or trident weapon, which is clearly KO design. I've painted 50 plus balloons and all the KO. That is a KO weapon. It's a trident, which makes me believe this could be the Sky Warden balloon hero. We have an Endrin Master with balloon. Now we're gonna get the generic Sky Warden hero. The Sky Sergeant, I don't know what his name is gonna be. And he's gonna do something for combat. That's what I think we'll get. We're gonna get a book, one hero. That's the classic release they do. I don't think we'll see the. Do we gonna see a FOMO box for KO? I don't know if it's worth it because KO is not big market.
Maybe a jewel box. Maybe you know how that sometimes that could we know these. Well, we haven't seen it, but we do know there's like 4 or 5 images coming, right? Like they've shown off some images to make.
Because also already with the Git mob box I have it up there, I heard it doesn't sell that good. And there's a lot of Git players in the world. So KO, maybe they're a bit cautious. I don't know. They're gonna get. I think it's gonna be the classic. Here's your dice. Here's your battle tome. Here's a 1 hero.
Yep,
that's possibly because I don't think KO is a big seller in their market. So yeah, another hero, but he's not going to be foot hero. He's going to fly with a balloon. So there you go. What I want, what I want is for unit wise is a unit that can brawl. Thunderers, yeah, they have a free up save. They have 2 wounds. I just want to hit from the boat. They are tanky, but I'm looking at something like, maybe they have a shield, or they come in like a weapon team, like a shield and a gun, kind of Giselle kind of vibes, something like that. That just can hold down an objective. That'd be cool. And then in the lore, and then in former books, especially during the Endless Spells craziness. They had Thunderers. They were, I think, like the kind of Black Marines. They had special weapons against magic and endless spells. That the anti endless spell shots and weapons. That could be interesting. Something like Doralia and those people, double damage against wizards and spells. It just makes it easier to interact with these endless spells. So you bring that weapon team, that 5-man troop that goes in a gun hauler, and they're just gonna do damage-free shots against endless spells. Maybe. But that also could be just a formation. Double the damage against manifestations. I don't know. That's something that could be interesting. Otherwise, yeah, it's a limited roster of war scrolls, but they've always been options and you can play around, and if the points are not too high, you can shift around. Maybe, Seasons of Flavor. At the beginning of the edition, points were very high, so you had 2 boats and then 3 troops, and you were at 1,800 points. So there's not much wiggle room to build a list. Maybe that's something. I'm I'll be excited about the book. I don't think it will change much from the index, especially what we've seen with the other releases.
books.
Some armies have had
Changed.
Slave's got
Changed.
the banner.
They got the banners back. Stormcast didn't really change.
No, but
Iron
some
Pro
ones start.
Crowboys just got worse.
No,
Gitbox or Gits just they changed the moon.
No, it's changed dramatically. As a Gits player, I can tell you the whole sun mechanic, the whole sun mechanic.
I haven't yet played the new book. I have it here. I have all the Gits armies over there.
The bad mood fundamentally changed. It did change. Let me throw out some ideas what I'd like to see, and this might be the type of thing that I would enjoy. And apologies for the 40k analogy coming out. I would like to see something like a dreadnought, or at least sentinels, like a sentinel like a dreadnought or like a pennant engine, like this Sisters of Battle, like because that's like this 10 wound, 12 wound, highly armored, 60 mil base, moves up to the board, can scrap. It's not heavily shooting. Maybe there's a customization, and you have shooting combat. Yeah, that's basically what I'm thinking of. Something like a golem almost, where it can scrap, and maybe it comes from the sky, like from it deep strikes into 9, because like the delivery mechanism, like you don't want this thing walking up the board, and maybe it comes from the sky, and then it scraps. But I think to your point, like it's something that can hold and contest and scrap with high armor, whether it is a bunch of infantry with shields and defend, whether it's something like a mechanical engine of something designed that way. That would be something that I'd love to see. I also think I like your idea, like some sniper rifle, like Darrelia type, shoot out the manifestations into backfield hero with like a long rifle that's purely designed to take out manifestations. I love that idea.
Oh, and I have one more idea.
All right.
Because that's something we've seen with recent armies. They all get terrain pieces.
Yeah, you've jumped me again. That was my last question. You've jumped me again. Because you're right. A lot of armies are getting both manifestations
Soulblights
and terrain.
Aurochs are getting terrain. Soulblight now getting these little graves.
And manifestations.
Yeah, I don't see manifestations for KO. But during when the second edition book came out, there was a rumor or something I heard from people involved with GW in Nottingham. They said they used to have a terrain. It was like 3 sky mines just that you placed at the beginning on your board, and they did something. And then they scrapped it for I don't know what reason. So people kept telling me they had a terrain piece and they didn't. Because that was also the time, 2020, where everyone got terrain pieces and manifestations.
Yeah.
And then they stopped because they had problems, I think, with production in China. And now they're getting back into it. Stormcast are getting their teleport toilet. The orcs are getting their little
the totem.
Soulblight are getting Gits already have their moon. So I think there's a good possibility for a terrain piece. Whether it be the same that they already have designed and just gonna redo it, whatever it's gonna do, I don't know. Maybe there's gonna give a ward to boats if you're close to this mine thing, floating thing. I don't know what it was. Or you get a buff, or you get more control score. I don't know. It's not gonna be game changing, but it could be interesting. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe that we're gonna get one now thinking about it.
Yeah,
like some refueling station. I don't know what this drilling station. Something.
There could be, like, you could have dropped a whole bunch of, I don't know, things, like whether it acts like the IDK boat where it's like a self buff and you got these couple of little pieces on the board, or maybe there's one piece on the board that can be deployed in some neutral territory or something.
Give them ward to the infantry unit. So you're gonna drop the infantry unit with the boat, -1 to hit, good save, and then you get an award in addition because you place them next to your drilling station or something.
Yep. Heaven forbid they're a drop pod where your infantry come down from the drop pod rather than a boat. You know what I mean? Like, is it
drop pod?
Just saying, there's ideas. I think there's a lot of
Thinking
space.
what is in the lore and the books that they've written. They have much bigger ships in the books. Already an ironclad should be the size of the table, but that's just the aspect of the game. Was there something? They had a hero, a logisticator, that comes up in the novels.
Let's talk about heroes. Like I'm trying to downplay the heroes and more like things that are not heroes.
Did they have? They had these automatic weapon platforms. Maybe that's the terrain piece. It's just a thing that just shoots, or that's the manifestation.
Maybe
you get these 3 little, 50mm bases, and they just kind of like drones float about and shoot people.
And by the way, manifestations can also be invocations, right? So maybe someone becomes a priest and they are able to bring off like judge.
There's Barak Fring. There's the skyport that operates with the fire slayers and is about the old gods and priests and so on. Yeah. Maybe that comes pre-life.
Who knows?
No.
Well, Anthony knows because he's seen the book, but he cannot talk about
it. If I did, I wouldn't be recording this episode right now. Like that would seem redundant. But all I can hope for is something that scraps in the middle of the board that I think KO players want to do, and I think equally your opponents would prefer you to scrap. Like still keep your assault bow, still keep your pew, but still come have something that can scrap in the middle of the board. And come fight on objectives.
Yep.
Oh, Max, you're getting me in trouble. Yeah, people can attack me in Discord constantly. Like, what do you know? I don't know anything. Leave me alone. Any final thoughts? Any comments about KO that you think that we haven't covered today?
No. Try them. They're an army that is underrepresented, especially in this edition, I think. So it's always nice to have more different armies to play against and play with. Give them a try. If you like the design, there's a lot of customization options there. I've seen so many things. People putting grots in boats and squigs as balloons and whatnot. There's so many options. If you don't like the design, you can use the Votan from 40k. Basically, it's just fancier suits. It's the same thing. And instead of boats, you have vehicles, or you can customize it somehow. It's a great army. It's fun to play, and in this edition, I think give it some time and you'll get the results.
I think it's a good time to pick them back up. I think 1, they're in a good spot. 2, the meta has shifted in a more kindly manner. 3, I think you've got some. I think this is a launch pad into the next General's Handbook whenever it drops. Assume like June, July sometime. So I think like get your reps in, get practicing. I think there's only upside, and I think you're also a gatekeeper. I think what I've learned playing Suns in the last 3 to 4 months is that people haven't been building to handle Suns, and that when you get in front of it, they're like, oh, I'm worried about this and this and this. Like, how do I do it? KO's the same thing. It's like, people I played KO and like, how do I handle
this team event? People did not want to play against the KO list. I only played it with Feck. It wasn't a great matchup. I only played it because people said, KO. The other people have never seen the KO in this edition. You're just going to win because people don't know. It's not a good way to win, but it helps if people are not used to playing against you.
And you think so differently about the game that you force your opponent to make mistakes. So again, I think I'm trying to show light at the end of the tunnel. It's a good time. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. It actually is like the win percentages are going up. The rules are going up. The meta is going up. Everything is in your favor. If you're on the fence or you haven't picked up your KO for a while, this is a good time to pick it up because there's probably been no time better for KO than 4th edition.
I'm not sure about that, but
before, like right now, like in fourth edition.
Yes. Then you're right. I think,
I'm not talking like you've been abusive for
we've been the terror of the tables in 2nd and 3rd edition.
First, you and your bloody balloons in 1st.
I have not played in 1st edition.
I've played you in every edition. Oh my God. I think I remember playing was it 27 Balloon Boys? Because obviously you could triple reinforce back then. So you could have units of 9.
12.
Yeah, 12. Yeah, 12. Like
We used to
ridiculous.
play that 12 Skywards at the first AoS Worlds in Milan. Yeah, it was fun.
There is no better time in 4th edition to play KO than right now.
Yes. Enjoy.
Max, when are you getting another episode of Aethercast back up? Because by the way,
Hopefully soon.
Max is from Aethercast. If you didn't hear it, go subscribe to them, go check them out, and leave a comment on their last video harassing them from me and you. When is your next episode?
Absolutely. It's terribly overdue. We have not covered KO, I think, in months now. We have updates. We have a shift in the meta. We have good results at tournaments. So we just need to find the time to record more shows. So if you have topics that you want to know, put them down in the comments of the last video, or just write us a message or on Discord. And we'll convince Lee and Alex to do another show. Yeah. And Matt.
There is no time like the present. Max, you are amazing. Thank you for all of the insights. I cannot wait to see what the new battle tone brings. Hopefully a Dreadnought style, like a sick KO Dreadnought powered with
I'll be very
like Aether and like, I think you could
shield and a big axe. Like the Space Wolf Dreadnought.
Yeah, like the dwarves are known for like their mechanical genius, and like just give me like that golem to that point, like that mechanical like thing.
Yeah.
Gosh, even if I have to go into 40k lore and have like the wounded, injured, KO people who no longer can like they're tied to the dread. If I have to go that way, I would personally accept it.
You know what would be very Age of Sigmar? Souls. You take the soul of someone and put it in there.
Upset Nagash again, but it's not stealing Nagash's souls.
That's the theme of the game.
That's how we started Soul
The
Wars.
other souls, yeah.
Oh, you're hilarious. All right, thank you so much. We're going to go on a random tangent and talk. Let's see what 4th edition looks like. All right, thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you pressed like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AoS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a 1-1 on a spellcast.